Hi everyone. In our last lecture we have learned about the physiology of the temperature regulation, and today we are going to talk about the pathway for temperature sensation. So to learn the pathway for the temperature sensation, we should have to have idea about the spinothalamic tract first. Why? Because after જેમ આગળ જોતા જઈશું then we'll come to know about this. So this question is basically asked in 5 marks in exams. So it is again important. So let's start with the spinothalamic tract. The spinothalamic tract is an ascending pathway of the spinal cord. Together with the medial lemniscus, it is one of the most important sensory pathways of the nervous system. It is responsible for the transmission of pain, temperature, and crude touch and pressure to the somatosensory region of the thalamus. So at જેટલા પણ pathways છે, if you are talking about pain, if you are talking about temperature, if we are talking about crude touch and pressure, so these all are related to the spinothalamic tract. Spinothalamic tract is also referred to as the ventrolateral or anterolateral system. It is composed of 4 tracts: anterior spinothalamic tract, lateral spinothalamic tract, spinoreticular tract, and spinotactal tract. The spinothalamic tract is also known as the ventrolateral system or anterolateral system. It is a sensory tract that transmits information from the skin to the thalamus in the brain. The anterolateral system is composed of the anterior and the lateral spinothalamic tracts. The anterior helps localize crude touch and pressure, and lateral helps localize pain and temperature sensation. So here, if our motto is to understand the pathway of temperature sensation, we should have to learn about the lateral spinothalamic tract. Ascending tracts of spinal cord carry the impulses of various sensations to the brain. Pathway for each sensation is formed by 2 or 3 groups of neurons, which are first order neurons, second order neurons, and third order neurons. So these 3 types of neurons, first, second, and third order neurons, and at the same time the lateral spinothalamic tract. These are the key components of spinothalamic tract. So we'll see what comes under this first order, second order, and third order neurons. First we'll see the first order neurons. First order neurons receive sensory impulses from the receptors and send them to sensory neurons present in the posterior gray horn of spinal cord through their fibers. Nerve cell bodies of these neurons are located in the posterior nerve root ganglion. Second order neurons are the sensory neurons present in the posterior gray horn. Fibers from these neurons from the ascending tracts of spinal cord. These fibers carry sensory impulses from spinal cord to different brain areas below the cerebral cortex. All these ascending tracts are formed by fibers of second order neurons of the sensory pathways, except the ascending tracts in the posterior right funiculus, which are formed by the fibers of first order neurons. Now we'll see the third order neurons. Third order neurons are in the subcortical areas. Fibers of these neurons carry the sensory impulses from subcortical areas to cerebral cortex. Now we'll see about lateral spinothalamic tract. Lateral spinothalamic tract is formed by the fibers from second order neurons of the pathway for the sensation of pain and temperature. Situation. Lateral spinothalamic tract is situated in the lateral column towards medial side, near the gray matter. Origin. Fibers of lateral spinothalamic tract take origin from 2 sources. First is the marginal nucleus and the second is the substantia gelatinosa of Ronaldo. Codes. Lateral spinothalamic tract has crossed fibers, axons from marginal nucleus and substantia gelatinosa of Ronaldo cross to the opposite side and reach the lateral column of the same segment. Few fibers may ascend 1 or 2 segments, then cross to the opposite side and then ascend in the lateral column. All the fibers pass through medulla, pons and midbrain and reach thalamus along with fibers of anterior spinothalamic tract. Some of the fibers of lateral spinothalamic tract form collaterals and reach the reticular formation of brainstem. Fibers of lateral spinothalamic tract form spinal lemniscus along with the fibers of anterior spinothalamic tract at the lower part of the medulla. This is the function of lateral spinothalamic tract. Fibers of lateral spinothalamic tract carry impulses of pain and temperature sensations. Fibers arising from this marginal nucleus transmit impulses of fast pain sensation. Fibers arising from substantia gelatinosa of Ronaldo transmit impulses of slow pain and temperature sensations. So before going to the pathway for temperature sensation, it is compulsory to know about the tract, the lateral side of the tract, the lateral part of the tract, first, second and third neuron, because when we are going to understand the pathway, these would be the keywords. So let's start with the actual pathway for the temperature sensation. First, the impulse begins in the epidermal free nerve endings, which mediate thermal and pain sensation from the skin. Impulse travels via first order neuron from big toe or thumb to reach the spinal cord via lumbosacral plexuses or brachial plexuses. It means if an impulse travels via first order neuron from big toe to reach the spinal cord via lumbosacral plexus, and if it is from thumb, it will reach to the spinal cord via the brachial plexus. The first order neuron carries impulse into the spinal cord via the dorsal root. Most of the first order axons travels to the substantia gelatinosa in the tip of the dorsal horn. So here substantia gelatinosa એટલે શું? So it is a grey gelatinous mass of neuroglia or nerve cells that is located in the cell-like formation or cap-like formation at the apex of spinal cord, which is the posterior of grey matter. This is just for knowledge. The first order neurons synapse on second order neurons in the substantia gelatinosa, and the second order neurons crosses over through ventral white commissure before entering the spinothalamic tract. The second order neurons then continues through the spinal cord carrying the impulse in the spinothalamic tract. As the second order neuron enters the brainstem, the collection of fibers referred to spinal lemniscus. The axon of the second order neurons terminates in the thalamus, synapsing on the third order neurons. Then they carry the impulse to the appropriate area of the primary somatosensory cortex. So this was about how the sensation goes to the pathway, and this would be the pathway for the temperature sensation. So again, તમને જ્યારે સેન્સેશન pathway for the temperature sensation પૂછાય તો you should have to start writing from here, or you can write something about the first, second or third neuron and that track. So there is a figure here જેની અંદર આખો ટ્રેક બતાવ્યો છે, like from here pain and temperature receptors, અને આપણે જે સ્કિન પરના receptors સમજીએ, if we can talk about from toe or thumb, તો ત્યાંના જે ફર્સ્ટ ઓર્ડર ન્યુરોન્સ છે ત્યાંથી સબસ્ટેનિયા જેલેન્ટિનોસાના સેકન્ડ ઓર્ડર ન્યુરોનમાં સિનેપ્સ થાય. So again we'll try to understand the whole pathway from this figure. So the impulse begins in the epidermal free nerve endings, which mediates thermal and pain sensation from the skin. Impulse travels via travels via first order neuron from the big toe through nerve of the leg to reach the spinal cord via lumbosacral plexuses. The first order neuron carries impulse into the spinal cord via the dorsal root, and most of the first order axons travels to the substantia gelatinosa in the tip of the dorsal horn. The first order neuron synapse on the second order neurons in the substantia gelatinosa, and the second order neuron crosses over the ventral white commissure before entering the spinothalamic tract. The second order neuron then continues through the spinal cord carrying the impulse in the spinothalamic tract. As the second order neuron enters the brain stem, the collection of fibers referred to spinal lemniscus, and the axon of the second order neuron terminates in the thalamus, synapsing on the third order neurons. Then they carry the impulse to appropriate area of the primary somatosensory cortex. This was about the impulses from the toe and thumb. If the impulse travels via first order neuron from the chin through branches of the mandibular nerve, it would reach to the brainstem via trigeminal nerve. First order neurons carries the impulses into the brainstem and travels to the spinal trigeminal nucleus. So this was the pathway. The sensory information that the spinothalamic tract transmits is designed to initiate an action in the person, and this is referred to as affective sensation. For example, a hot object causes us to withdraw, a sharp object causes us to withdraw, and each causes us to scratch. मतलब તમે કોઈ ગરમ વસ્તુને અડો તો તમારો હાથ એકદમ લઈ લો, વિથડ્રો કરી લો. તો હાથ હતો તો પગ હતો તો બોડીનો કોઈ પણ જે પાર્ટ છે, if hot object અથવા તો cold object ને ટચ થાય તો how you would react. This is that. So it was about the pathway for temperature sensation. So again, it is important, and you should have to start writing about from this thing. I'll send you the PPT, but you should have the idea about the first, second, and third order neurons and spinothalamic tract. And the lateral part of the spinothalamic tract is responsible for the sensation of pain and temperature sensation. Again, if you are being asked about the pathway for pain sensation, so you should have to write down the same thing in that, because જે બે સેન્સેશન છે એનો એક જ ઓરિજિન છે, લેટરલ સ્પાઇનોથેલેમિક ટ્રેક. સો એમાંથી જ પેઇન અને ટેમ્પરેચર બંને સેન્સેશન કેરીઝ થાય છે, ઇમ્પલ્સિસ કેરીઝ થાય છે. સો યુ શુડ હેવ ટુ રાઇટ ડાઉન these things if they are going to ask about the pathway for pain sensation and pathway for the temperature sensation. So this was it. If you are having any query regarding this, let me know.